We are often told to chase the light, focus on positivity, love, and good vibes only. But what if for some people true transformation lies in the shadows, the parts of ourselves we have been conditioned to ignore, deny, or even fear? Today, we're diving into the powerful idea with Jill Ogle. Jill is a transformative force in the world of personal growth, a trauma specialist, former team leader at Dr. Joe Dispenza's workshops, and the founder of Transcend Your Reality, which is a platform dedicated to helping individuals discover their hidden potential. Through her approaches like quantum collapse and the emotional mastery model, Jill guides her clients from feeling stuck to stepping into unstoppable versions of themselves. Her philosophy, that true healing and freedom come not just from embracing the light, but also from owning and loving the shadow within. She is also the author of the book called Beyond the Light, Meeting the Shadow Within, where she shares her deeply personal awakening journey and the lessons she's learned about self-discovery, healing, and transformation. In this episode, Jill shares her profound insights on shadow work, emotional mastery, and living a life of alignment and purpose. We will explore how challenges can become opportunities for growth, how emotions can act as your greatest teachers, and why embracing your whole self, light and shadow alike, is the key to happiness. Get ready for a transformative conversation that might just change the way you see yourself. Let's dive in. You are listening to Health, Happiness, and Planet podcast, where we explore different ways to boost our well-being, live a more fulfilling life, and protect our planet. Join me as I chat with inspiring people and professionals from all over the world, uncovering strategies for improving our lifestyles and nurturing our precious planet. I am Juan, and this podcast is proudly brought to you by Wave Business Excellence Footprint, my digital training company that cares about your career and personal development. I am passionate about making the world a better place, so if you share my enthusiasm, this show is for you. Together, we can steer towards a healthier, happier life while leaving a positive footprint on our beautiful Earth. Join me as we explore how being healthy, happy, and caring for our planet are all connected. Hello, Jill, and welcome to the Health, Happiness, and Planet podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Hi, Juan. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for your time. So, I was just thinking about how long we have waited to have you on the show, and it has been a while, so I'm so happy it turned out that we found a time for our conversation today, which is going to be a very interesting one, and also a lot of things that you can share with our listeners. Before we go into those questions, I'm always curious to hear, and especially for those who haven't heard from you yet, could you tell us a bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I think like most people, I've experienced a little bit of trauma in my childhood. And I think even if you haven't experienced what you would label trauma, people still have emotional stuff going on from back then. Could be tiny little things that they've heard their parents say, which is sort of stuck with them over the years, or fights with brothers and sisters and things. And all of this information gets stuck in our subconscious mind. It gets stuck in our physical body. And as we grow, we kind of have signals to become more aware of those things. And if we're listening, we'll do something about it and take action. So yeah, I had a little bit of trauma when I was a child, and then I attempted suicide when I was 14. And then there's a series of other things. I had ill health from the age of 12, iron deficiencies and chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, a lot of autoimmune stuff going on. And no one could really tell me what was happening with my physical body. So that was kind of always there in the background. And then I got married and got divorced 2 years later. And then 12 months after that, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And, he was my best mate. He was very important to me. He was my hero. And, it kind of broke my heart to hear that. And that was the time where I started to awaken. So a lady came into a place where I was working, my family business, and I was sort of telling her about it. I just heard, and I was telling her about it. I was quite upset. And she said to me, "Have you heard of The Secret?" I said, "No, like, what is that?" And she said, "Oh, it's this great movie. Go home, watch it, and then, give me a call and let me know what you think." And so I did that, and then I watched it probably another 150,000 times. And I just thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. I thought, great, I found my answer. This is how I can help my dad. 7 months later, my dad died. And I realize now that finding The Secret wasn't about my dad. It wasn't about saving my dad. Because when I realized the power of the mind, when I realized the power of, what we're capable of, all I wanted to do was get him to watch it and get him to, well, at the time, it was positive thinking that I was trying to get him to focus on. It just wasn't for him, and that's okay. It wasn't his journey. And what I realize now is that it wasn't for him. It was never for him. It wasn't meant for him. It was actually for my awakening. So over the next probably 10 years, I focused on looking at anyone in that kind of realm: Abraham Hicks, Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, anyone in that kind of genre, as well to like Napoleon Hill and Florence Scovel Shinn. Like, I really looked into anyone that was kind of spouting this information. And, I started training. I started doing NLP training, hypnotherapy. And I really wanted to then understand myself and understand, what my life had been about, and to really unpack and to really start to heal myself. Then, not long after that, I started working for Joe Dispenza. And when I was working for Joe, I was having some amazing experiences. I was traveling the world. I was meant to be in 13 countries in 2020, and then obviously COVID happened. When that happened, he dismantled the leadership team that I was a part of. And, he said that he would invite the team leaders back once retreat started again. But I decided at that point to leave the organization and to do my own thing, to venture off on my own journey. And at that point, I started to really have a breakdown in my health, which led to this sort of breakdown of my old persona, who I thought I was. And I had a lot of issues with my health. I had a swollen hippocampus. I lost my memory. I lost my cognition. There's one point where I was sat on the couch thinking, I'm going to end up in a nursing home because I feel like I'm heading to a catatonic state here. Like, I was really, really challenged. Backing up a bit, prior to leaving Joe's community, there was an incident with my brother. I just left a retreat in Niagara Falls, and I met a girlfriend of mine in New York for brunch, and we had a lovely time, walked down to the Brooklyn Riverside, and we're just about to sit down, and I got a call from my nephew saying that my brother and his girlfriend, their bodies were found at her house, and it looks like he has killed her and then killed himself. And that was the next pivotal moment in my awakening. Now, people will be shocked to hear that, I'm sure, and I get it. I was shocked at the time, and I had shock running through my body at various points into the next year. However, there's two sides to everything, and the part that I'd like to focus on is the gift that my brother gave me in that moment, because in that moment when I heard that information, I had a lot of things running through my mind. I was like, oh my God, my nephews, my mum, I'm murderer's sister now. What does that mean? And then all of a sudden I had this kind of huge wave of unconditional love flow over me. And I got it. I really got it. I really got why so many people were struggling in Joe's community. So many people struggled with positive thinking. It's not about being one-sided. It's not about loving the good bits. It's about loving everything. And that's the amazing gift that my brother gave me. He gave me this amazing gift to show me that all parts of us are lovable. There's nothing that we've done or not done that's not worthy of love. And when you can love the unlovable, not only are you free, but you allow yourself to transform. You allow others to transform. So then when I left Joe's community, it was twofold. It was like I was ready to do my own thing. And I had this newfound desire to dive deep into the darkest crevices of my mind and start to heal myself there. Because, you know, while I had so many amazing experiences working for Joe and even over that period where I was on the positive track, I was also on this incredible roller coaster of highs and lows and trying to be positive all the time. And it's not sustainable. It's not possible to be positive all the time. And so when I fell out of that positivity, I crashed and I crumbled. And so now I understand why. And we'll get to that later when we start to talk about different things that I teach. But at the time, you know, I just thought that I was broken. I thought, why can't I be positive all the time? Why can't I do this? Why can't I stay in the vortex, as Abraham Hicks says? So it's been a massive journey for me. And, you know, those two pivotal moments of my dad gifting me my awakening and then my brother helping me take it to a whole other level, it's really given me the ability to look at situations that, you know, aren't particularly pleasant, aren't particularly, you know, on people's top list of want to experience. However, I can look at those moments and go, thank you, you know, thank you. And I love you. And I think that really is what's going to change the world. I think that really is what truly transforms us. Yeah. And as you can see, my health from 2020, thinking I was going to end up in a nursing home, I'm clearly much better. I've healed myself of many things. Yeah. And it is because I've done that sort of deep transformational work and stopped trying to avoid the parts of me that I didn't like. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that story with us. It's very profound and, well, it's something that it's not easy to digest. Yeah, when you hear that story for the first time, it really shows how much effort was also for you and at what place you were and how much improvement you have done in your life with your new techniques that you have also now put together. And that's where you also, at what point of time did you write your book, which is called Beyond the Light?
That was just recently. That was just a few months ago. Yeah, it's just
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's just a short little book as an introduction to the work that I do with some practical exercises that people can go through on their own and start to sort of look at those parts of themselves, start to look at, you know, where they are stuck in life and potentially, you know, start to heal and love those parts. There's nothing within us that we can't love. There's nothing within us that's not in someone else and vice versa. Everything I see in you is within me. You know, I do touch on a couple of personal things in the book, but it's really just an introduction to this work and to start to, I said, you know, get into those exercises to help people uncover.
And what's very interesting from your book is that you talk about embracing both the light and the shadow within.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of other people who always say, look, you mentioned earlier, and to think about the positive things, to think about where the light is, but what about the other side? Yeah, there's always like that yin and yang. So could you tell us more about what does it mean for somebody who hasn't heard about this before? What does it mean to have that light and the shadow within? Yeah. Could you give us more info?
Yeah, well, we live in a holographic universe, and I don't want to go too deep into that because it might scare people. But basically what that means is we are holographic and we have every part of the hologram contains the entirety of the whole. And so we have everything within us, And every time someone triggers us, that's an opportunity to go in and see that part of ourselves that is there, and we've dismissed it. So maybe as a child, you were told that you're too loud, you're too noisy, you know, quiet down. So you've hidden that effervescent part of you, that bubbly part of you. You've hidden that away because you've heard that as a child. And as a child, we count on our parents and our guardians and people that care for us for survival. And so it's a survival instinct to tuck those parts that deemed unacceptable away. You know, Robert Bly says it beautifully. He says that we walk around with this backpack, and every time we feel like something's not okay, we'll stuff it in that backpack. So it could be the too loud, too quiet, you know, speak up, boy, what are you doing? You know, it could be the emotional part, you know, that's a big one for men. Big boys don't cry. So we stuff all of these parts of ourselves in this backpack. And then we go to school and, we want to fit in with our friends. And so, again, we put more parts of ourselves in our backpack. Then we go to college, we start work and we want to fit in with our colleagues. Then we get married and we stuff more parts in that backpack. And then we get to a point at some point where either that backpack falls apart and all of these parts come out for us to heal, or, something like my brother, situations like that can happen as well. It's really the stuff that we don't love about ourselves. So, if you have an attachment to being kind, then you'll really hide that mean part. But that mean part will come out when you don't want it to. And so if we allow ourselves instead to love all of these parts, then we get to transform them. Because the truth of the matter is, the most beautiful, perfect, authentic version of you isn't just intelligent, kind, and compassionate. You're the opposite of those things as well. You're sometimes dumb, you're sometimes mean, you're sometimes, apathetic. And so the truth of who you are is everything. And until you love those parts of you, until you really appreciate how they've served you, you will have a fractured persona. You'll contort yourself in social situations. You'll show up as the people pleaser. You'll move through life doing things that you don't want to do because you want to keep everyone happy. If you grew up in a volatile household, you'll likely be the one who wants to be kind and peaceful all the time, keep the peace. And so these parts of you are controlling you in ways that you may not even know, because they're so unconscious, they're so subconscious that you don't even realize that you're not who you truly are. And so when we get to look at these triggers and look at these parts of ourselves that we've denied, then we allow ourselves to become more whole beings. We're not triggered as much. We're not as reactive. We don't have the head noise, the overthinking, the ruminating. We show up in a different way, raising your frequency. Authentic self is the highest frequency you can possibly get to in this lifetime. And that is the whole of you, not just the bits that you like. Now, conversely, there's a golden shadow as well. It's not just all about the dark stuff that we don't like. And so when you're looking at someone, and this is big for celebrities and sports people and, people in the public arena, we look at these people and we think, my God, they're so beautiful or they're so talented. And we give our power away in that way as well. We say to them, oh, you're so intelligent, but I'm not intelligent, so I'm going to give you my intelligence to hold on to. And so again, it's about taking back those parts and again, really becoming this whole being. I like to say to people, if you spot it, you got it. So whatever you see in others is within you. I could ramble on for ages, but a big thing that I see in the spiritual community these days, or just in life in general, is, you've got to set boundaries. You've got to remove toxic people from your life. You've got to separate yourself from these people. Now, you're God. My phone is God. My table is God. My dog is God. The painting behind me is God. Everything is God. Everything is the universe. Everything is energy. And when you do that, you deny yourself the most beautiful, profound, enriching situation where you can actually speak with the divine, speak with God in front of you, and allow them to trigger you and allow them to heal you, because everyone is coming to heal you and everyone is coming to be healed. And so every trigger, every time you look at someone and you admire them and you give that gift away, that's an opportunity for you to take back these parts and to truly become the whole, loving, grateful, fulfilled, inspired being that we all try so hard to be.
Wow, thanks for that explanation. I haven't seen it in that point of view yet, and it's definitely very profound. And from there, I just have that one question about the dark side and the light side. Do you think that everybody has like a yin and yang where you see that 50-50 proportion? Or is it like some people have more the light side, less the dark, others have more the dark and less the light? Or how do you perceive that?
Yeah, well, it's all based on our perceptions, right? So I'm going to see in someone something different to what you're going to see, because it's all based on our disowned parts. If you want to look at right and wrong, you'll do your head in, you'll go crazy because, we all have different ideas of what's okay and what's not. We all have different ideas of what's moral and what's not. Everything that we see in others is within us. And my perception of who's good and who's bad is going to be based on my experiences growing up, my challenges growing up, my disowned parts. I mean, people will look at my brother and say he's evil. Well, he gave me the greatest gift that I've ever gotten in my life. And I feel for him. And I know that had he done this work that I teach, he would have been transformed. He wouldn't have had the pain that he had. You don't love someone, you don't love yourself through judgment. It's through seeing both sides. It's through getting beyond. Because the only thing that exists is love, and everything else is an illusion. And the way to transform this world, the way to get to more light, isn't by crucifying or judging people that we perceive to do bad things, in air quotes. It's by understanding what we're seeing that's within us that we've disowned, and loving that part of ourselves, and understanding how it's serving, and understanding the dynamics in this universe. God doesn't make mistakes. So if God doesn't make mistakes, if there's a divine order to this place that we live in, then how can anything be, or anyone be, just inherently evil, right? Yeah. Even over the past 4 years, like there's, obviously been a divide between people with the COVID thing. Some people think Bill Gates is a hero for helping with the vaccines, and some people think he's the devil. And so what is he? Well, he's both. He's both. And we all have both within us. We all have the sinner and the saint, the hero and the villain. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We see the world through our programming, our perceptions. If you were raised in a highly religious household, you're probably going to have different beliefs and perceptions to someone like me who wasn't. There might be a high value on right and wrong, and I've got to be good because I want to get into heaven and all of these sorts of things, as opposed to me, who I believe the way that we transform the world is to love everything. And I'm not saying it's not challenging at times to find the positives in the negatives and the negatives in the positives, right? Yeah. However, that is absolutely the key to all of this.
I had that one case of somebody who I knew. I don't know where that came from, but she had the feeling that she was not happy with her breasts. She did not think they were ideal according to what she would see on social media and other places. So somehow she always had that feeling like, I don't like my breasts, I need to have them operated. But then at some point of time, she got breast cancer. And I don't know what book she read or who she came across, but somebody said, you got to start loving everything about your body. You got to love everything about yourself, including your breasts. Yeah? And as soon as she changed her mindset and started loving the way how she looks, including her breasts, suddenly her cancer just disappeared. Yeah. So for me, it was like, wow, that's so profound sometimes, that your perception of things really does that reaction to your body. It could either heal you or destroy you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a bit of what I talk about in my programs that I teach, because every situation has pros and cons, right? Everything has good and bad. Everything has benefits and drawbacks. But what happens is when we experience something, our brain splits and our brain assigns valency, which is just meaning, to that particular moment. And so it either labels it positive or it labels it negative. If it labels it positive, well, then the negative side of it goes unconscious, right? And we're only conscious of the positives, or vice versa. And the negative remains conscious and the positive goes unconscious. But in any situation, I mean, you brought the yin and the yang up. It's exactly what life is. There's light and dark in absolutely everything, in everyone. So anything that's not balanced in your perception and is creating noise in your mind, it's impacting your autonomic nervous system. And that noise, anything that's kind of challenging you, troubling you, sort of stuck with you, and it could be subconscious, right, as well. It's not just the conscious stuff. It's literally living in your body. It's programming stuck in your body. And it will, if you don't listen to the feedback that you get, show up as dis-ease. And the example that you gave of the breast cancer, so breast cancer is all about putting others first and a lack of ability to self-nurture. And so that's exactly what that lady started to do, right? She started to self-nurture. She started to put herself first and to love herself. And so when you get the message that your body's trying to give you, I mean, we have this incredible feedback mechanism via our emotions, via our physical body, via our reality around us to understand our programming, to understand what's going on for us subconsciously. It's not often taught, how to understand that feedback. And so we miss the tap on the shoulder, we miss the slap across the face, and then next minute you're getting punched in the face with breast cancer to kind of wake you up to things. Once we get those messages and can start to change that subconscious programming, change the way we feel about ourselves and about life in general, then our physical form must follow, because our external reality simply is a reflection of our internal one. And the universe is always bringing us back into balance and back into homeostasis. You're fighting it so much by trying to hold on to, long held beliefs and programs. And it's not our fault, because we're not taught this stuff. We're not taught these tools, and we're not taught how to understand this feedback. So that's a big part of what I do as well.
Fantastic. So I do have definitely a lot of questions about your techniques and about the things that you're doing. Before we go there, maybe just to start with some basics for some of our listeners, how would you define trauma, and how does one recognize if they have a trauma? Is there certain signals that you can say, oh yeah, I haven't really thought about it, but that caused me to have this and that? So how would you define, first of all, trauma, and how do you know if you have it?
Yeah, I mean, I am a bit wary of people sort of potentially getting attached to the idea of trauma. Essentially, we've experienced events, and, some of them we've perceived them to be traumatic. I worked with a fellow years ago, and he didn't really have what we would call trauma, where, you've experienced something, you've gone into fight or flight, you've potentially had shock run through your body like I did with my brother. He hadn't really experienced anything like that, and yet the way he showed up was still like he had experienced trauma. So you could stub your toe and that can impact you, right? You can stub your toe and think, I'm an idiot, I'm so stupid, I'm never going to make it in this world. It's the story we tell ourselves at the time of the event. And, that's all dependent on how we're raised, all of those things. And then you can have someone who experiences something like I did. I was sexually assaulted as a child. So that's trauma. It's anything really that happens that kind of gets stuck within you. Anything that you experience that you've not kind of gotten over, you've not truly healed from. And the way it shows up is through, people pleasing, contorting yourself to fit into situations, even being overly kind, overly, you've got to help everyone. There's so many ways that it does, like reactive, lack of emotional mastery. There's so many ways that it shows up for people. And so whether you've experienced trauma or not, whether you perceive you've experienced trauma or not, I don't really want you to get sort of stuck on that label. More just, what are your symptoms of that? How is your life? Are you fulfilled? Are you living a meaningful life? Are you reactive? Are you on that emotional roller coaster? Those are the sort of things that I care about. I don't care whether you've experienced trauma or not. It's more, how meaningful is your life to you? How much time do you spend up and down and all over the place? Or how much time do you spend in gratitude? And there's no right or wrong here either. It's simply, if you do want to transform that part of you, then that is available.
Yeah, fantastic. And perhaps we could dive in to some of your techniques that you use and in your coaching and in order to support these people going through that journey. So could you give us some insight on how you do that?
Yeah. A lot of the work that I do to begin with is really helping people to understand my emotional mastery model and the cosmic law framework. So, there's there's a lot of people that come to me that have been on the journey that I've been on I've got to be positive all the time. I've got to stay in the vortex. I've got to, I just want to be happy. And it's because we've experienced these massive bouts of depression, these experiences, traumatic or otherwise, that have, I guess, our perceptions of them have caused us to feel depressed, down, suicidal ideation, and really just not great about life in general. And so when you start to hear about this new age information and that you create your reality, there can be a tendency to be attached to the other side, right? Because we've had it so rough. And so a lot of people come to me with that kind of mindset. And don't get me wrong, if you're down, you're going to need some positivity to bring you back into balance. However, the way I like to help people is to think of life as, we want to move through life with a healthy optimism rather than the positive, because the positive always has the negative. Just to know that life is going to work out. Life is always working out. Everything is actually divinely orchestrated. We do have free will. We have the ability to change our life and create whatever it is that we want. And that doesn't mean that we're going to be free of challenge. That doesn't mean that we're going to never have another obstacle, that everything's just all of a sudden going to be unicorns and rainbows and lollipops and sunshine, right? And that's definitely what a lot of people think that are in these arenas. I was one of them. I was one of them. And so whenever anything went, in air quotes, wrong, again, I felt broken. I felt like, there was something wrong with me. I wasn't able to live this one-sided life. And no one can. And again, the yin and the yang, we always have both sides. And if you are attached to being happy, then sad is happy's best friend. So you're going to experience sad as well. Yeah. If you're attached to being positive, then you're going to experience negative, because they're also best friends. So in the cosmic law framework, I help people to understand the rules of this game, because I'm not talking about human laws, I'm talking about cosmic laws that really are the rules of this game. We can't get outside of them. And people trying to live a one-sided life where it is just that kind of Pollyanna way of living, that's not possible, and it's only going to have you end up in strife and on that emotional roller coaster. And then so the emotional mastery model is, I teach people, really how to start to balance their emotions and how to really master them so that they become less reactive, so their refractory period is shortened, so that they're not stuck in their stuff for so long. And to really understand that when we're proud, we're covering up what we're ashamed of. When we're happy, well, we're also going to experience sad. So there's the two ends of the poles in every emotion. And so it's really understanding that the place we really want to be, most people say they want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Most people really want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel in love with their lives. They want to experience gratitude. So really, it's about understanding the balance and understanding how to live in that space of gratitude and love, living an inspired life. And also to know that it's okay to feel happy and it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel joy. It's okay to feel sorrow. And in fact, you can't escape it. You can't escape it. Yeah.
And what's also very important, what you said, is that refractory period, because some people think like, oh, now I got angry at that situation that just happened and I am angry at myself for getting angry and getting upset. But in reality, it's okay that you got upset. It's okay that you got angry. It's just a question, how long are you going to be angry? Are you going to be angry for the whole week, the whole month, the whole year? Or are you going to be angry for a moment and then you say, okay, I processed it, I'm going to get out of it now. And that's, I think, what's very important, that you do not beat yourself up for suddenly unfolding into a different character or into a different emotion and say, oh, why did I feel at that moment just a second of hate for something? And I should not be feeling that. Yeah, but it happens. Yeah, if that situation just turned out to be that you felt hate, then do not hate that you hate it. Yeah, just say, okay, that's the way I felt. Yeah, and I got to honor that feeling and I got to process it and see, okay, how did that actually trigger me, and how do I now get out of that again? Yeah.
And this is the thing, we experience an emotion and then we crucify ourselves for it. Anger serves. If you're feeling depressed, get angry about something. It's going to give you energy. It's going to light a fire in you. Like, anger is a great way to boost your energy if you're feeling fatigued, if you're feeling down and depressed. So everything serves. If it didn't serve, it would be extinct. 99% of the world's animal life is extinct. If it didn't need to exist anymore, it would become extinct. And so our anger, our sadness, our depression even, it all serves in a way. I think there's this real kind of attachment to this happy, joyful side of things. And I get it. When you've experienced a lot of pain in your life, all you want to do is get out of it. All you want to do is like not experience that anymore. However, if you can sit with your pain, if you can allow it in, if you can embrace it, if you can allow it to overwhelm you truly, and not distract yourself with television or friends or whatever it is that you use to escape. Shopping is a good one for women experience. We allow ourselves to and can reflect on what this pain is trying to teach us.
Time for a quick break to mention that the sponsor of this podcast is Wave Business Excellence Footprint, a digital training company deeply committed to your career development, personal growth, and the well-being of our precious planet. Dive into a wealth of knowledge with over 20 courses available on our website, www.wave-bef.com. Tailored for both managers and employees aspiring to become tomorrow's leaders. One of our best-selling courses is the Presentation and Communication Skills Training, perfect for those creating and delivering presentations in their companies. Whether through video conference or live meetings, if you want to convey your message effectively and do an outstanding job, this course equips you with the skills to be a better creator and presenter. Check out the testimonials on our website. The results speak for themselves. During my time in the corporate world, I often wished I had the opportunity to access such courses at the beginning, making my learning experience quicker. And now, one further topic before we jump back to the conversation. For those of you resonating with the themes of health, happiness, and planet, discover information about our 3-day retreat in Spain by reaching out to my team at the email address hhp@wave-bef.com. You will obtain further information about our life-changing retreat held once a year, together with some of our remarkable podcast guests. Each retreat is unique, leaving you energized with a set of simple tools to take control of your health and happiness sustainably. And the best part, you will be surrounded by like-minded individuals, ending the retreat with a personal action plan shared regularly within the group.
I had even a couple of days over Christmas where I felt the most excruciating pain, and I allowed it. To come through. And what it did for me was, I've been quite a warrior for a lot of my life with everything that I've experienced. And so it really allowed my walls to crumble. This last part of me, this last part of my old self really started to crumble, and out came this new version of me because I allowed it. I allowed it to become destroyed in that moment, and a new version was created. And that's not to say that I'm completely fixed and perfect. I think this work is a journey for a lifetime, and it's a beautiful journey to be on. And when you can understand the content that I teach, when you can understand that content deeply, you're able to move through life in a different way. You're able to understand what's going on around you. You're able to understand the feedback that you're getting. You're able to work with what's going on for you rather than trying to resist it and push it away and get rid of it. And that's when things change. That's when miracles happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. For there came the birth of your program, which is Alchemy. And I do have a couple questions on that because as a lot of people are dialing in from different countries, is this a program that they can do online? Is this something they can do from other places in the world and also still receive the benefits from this program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do weekly calls, live calls. All of those calls are recorded. So if you're out of the time zone, you can absolutely watch the replays. However, I put it in a time slot that is accessible for most of the world. Yeah, I did that deliberately because I wanted everyone to have the ability to join. But yeah, absolutely, you can join. You can come in from anywhere in the world. We have teaching one week, and then we have Q&A the next. And it's developing into such a beautiful community. I'm so in love with everyone who's in the program. And more than anything, I love two things. I love transformation and I love community. And so watching my community that I'm building transform is just the absolute ultimate for me, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's completely selfish, you know, it's all self-serving. It really is. It really makes my heart full. Yeah. So yes, absolutely, you can join from anywhere in the
Okay.
world.
And
Yeah.
how's it the duration? Is it like a specific time frame or how's it set up?
Yeah, so they're hour and a half sessions each week. So hour and a half teaching, and then you can ask questions during the session if you have questions, and then an hour and a half of Q&A the next week, where sometimes we talk about the work and sometimes we just have these wild discussions on supernatural things or mysticism or
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
yeah.
Well, the one question I do have, which is something that I'm sure not too many people heard about, what is the cosmic law framework?
Yeah, so the cosmic law framework is sort of what I touched on before, where there are rules to this game, there are rules to life, there are laws for this universe, and they're not human laws, they're not man-made laws, they're laws of physics, they're laws of dynamics. And if you try and live outside of those laws, I mean, the first law is that all is mentalism, right? Everything is mind. And you'll know that from the Hermetic philosophy, that all is mind. There's another law where it's the law of polarity, which basically means what I was saying before is you cannot have happy without sad. You cannot have joy without sorrow. You cannot have pride without shame. And so as we start to understand these laws, and there's about 10 that I teach in the program, we start to align ourselves with the natural way this universe operates, and then that impacts our emotional mastery as well, because instead of expecting people to show up in a certain way, instead of expecting to be one-sided and positive and happy all the time, we start to understand, well, that's not possible. And what I'm going to aim for is love instead, because that's all there is and all else is illusion. And so we start to become in alignment with the universe. We start to, instead of being slammed by the universe to bring us out of our prides, to bring us back into balance, we start to live in alignment with it. And that's the flow. That's the flow of life.
Yeah, fantastic. We did touch upon a topic during our conversation, but perhaps the listeners do not know about the emotional mastery model. So this is also something that you're doing. Could you give us, again, just like a connection on what is the emotional mastery model?
Yeah, so that's the model that I teach, really just to help you to understand your emotions, to understand the feedback that you're getting, to understand why you're feeling the way you do, to help you to move out of that reactive kind of way of being and into more of a balanced space, to get off that emotional roller coaster and to live. Yeah, I mean, if people were watching, it's that kind of up and down, almost even into a bipolar way of being at times when we're attached to one side. And so I teach people to come more back into balance and to really understand our emotions and to really understand the feedback that we're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the inner compass roadmap? Because I've seen that in your website and I'm quite curious to know about that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have a purpose in this life. We all have a North Star. It's called the telos, which is the end in mind. We all have a thing we came here to do. You know, many of us spend our lives working in jobs that we don't like, doing things that we don't enjoy because we feel we need to. We need to do that thing to make money. We need to do that thing to keep the peace. And if you're doing things out of alignment with your inner compass roadmap, so we go through and we start to unpack what's really important to you. We start to get to the bottom of what is your purpose in this life? What is it that lights you up? When you can live in alignment with that North Star, that inner compass roadmap, then you're going to reduce your symptoms in your physical body. You're going to be less emotional, less reactive. You're going to be more inspired. You're going to have more energy. The first thing that I do with anyone that comes to me with chronic fatigue is I say, we've got to find your purpose. We've got to get you on purpose, because it really does impact us so greatly. If you think of a time where, you know, you had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do something that you didn't want to do, you know, you probably snoozed the alarm 15 times and you dragged yourself out of bed and you did it, right? And then you compare yourself to how you are when you've got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go on a trip, to go on a vacation, to go somewhere that you really want to go. And all of a sudden you're jumping out of bed. There's no snooze in the world. Like, you're straight into the shower. You've got energy, right?
Yeah.
And so this is how I help people to refine what's important to them and to really only do those things. Now, it can get to the point of, like, a friend of mine, she's a photographer for dogs. She takes the most beautiful photographs, and she quit her business because she didn't love doing all of the admin. She didn't love the marketing. She didn't love all of those aspects of her business. She liked taking the photos and she liked editing them. That was it. Now, had we worked together to refine that and get her to delegate anything that she didn't like to do, she would have been on purpose. She would have been in alignment with her inner compass roadmap more often and not doing the things that actually dragged her down, which she ended up quitting the business because of it. So even if you think you're on purpose, but you're still not quite feeling it, there could just be some refinements to that. And that's what I help people with yeah.
Perfect. And is it true that if you are really on the right path, that you're doing your purpose, that's where the most manifestations will be happening in your life?
Yeah, so I want to really throw a spanner in the works here. Yes, if you're in alignment with the universe, right? Cosmic law framework, and then you're on purpose, you've really refined down what it is that inspires you, then yes, the universe is going to absolutely support you in that. Now, the mistake people make is they have challenge. They have challenge show up and they say, this isn't for me, something's wrong, it's not easy, it should be easy, this isn't working, I must be on the wrong path. No. The version of you now does not have the thing that you want. So the challenge comes along to help you to grow, to help you to become the version of you that has the thing that you want. So don't make that mistake, right?
Wow.
And that is the number one mistake people make. I actually worked with someone not long ago. She left the fire brigade because of the vaccine. She didn't want to get vaccinated. And so she left. She loves doing it. It lights up when she talks about it. She talks about it all the time. It's so meaningful to her. She feels inspired. So when she was able to go back, when they dropped all the mandates, she was able to go back and become fiery again. We call them in Australia fiery. She jumped at the chance. Now, she had all of the excuses under the sun. She's like, I'm going through menopause. I've gained weight. I don't have the energy. I've hurt my hamstring training for this thing. There's no way I'm going to pass this test, because she had to do a physical to get back in. She's like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to be able to do it. Everything's going wrong. Now it's raining and, maybe it's just not meant to be. And I said to her, well, I don't believe that because of the way you light up, the way you're energized when you talk about these things. I said, what is it that you really want? And she said, well, I'd love to, but I just don't think I can. And I said, listen, the challenge isn't coming to stop you. The challenge is coming for you to develop something within you that has the outcome that you want. And so I said, how is this going to serve your family? Because family is number one for her. So how is this going to help your family if you pass this test and become a fiery again? And she said, well, I'll be a better mum because I'll feel fulfilled. You know, we went through a whole series of things. And I said, well, focus on that. I said, tomorrow when you go for your test, focus on that. Focus on how it's going to help you with what's most important to you. And she didn't. She passed with flying colours. So many other teachers would have allowed her to stop at that point and go, yes, it doesn't feel like it's in flow. It should be easy. No, yes, maybe it's not for you. No. You've got to look at how important it is to that person, how much they light up when they talk about things, how meaningful it is, and then get them to understand that every challenge that we experience in life, every obstacle is for us, deliberately, perfectly designed for us to become a different version of us.
Fantastic. Yeah, and it's not always going to be served in a golden platter to say, oh, look, here it is. Because if it's served in a golden platter, then you're not going to develop yourself to become that person, because it's just there. And you say, okay, I'll just be myself. And there it is. Yeah. And it's not going to be making me develop myself and to become version 2.0 of myself.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we don't necessarily need challenge to transform. However, if we're not getting the messages that we're, you know, then we will experience challenge to help us to up level. And so it's okay. It's okay. But I think a lot of people let that break them down and quit and think that it's not working, and it's absolutely working. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great advice. Thanks for telling us that. I think that's going to give a lot of energy for a lot of people who are listening to this, because sometimes, you know, when there are a couple of obstacles, then many people just say, oh, maybe I should just give up on that dream because of whatever reason. But, you know, stick in there. If that's really your dream, then maybe you should just really overcome that obstacle. And then once you have overcome it, then suddenly you are a different person, because you have gone through that pain. You've gone through that challenge. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great.
And look, I mean, there are people that do push on with things that aren't for them as well. So it really is key to understand, is this meaningful? Does this energize me? That's the important part.
Yeah.
If it does, keep going. If it doesn't, if you're a doctor because your parents wanted you to and you really want to be a beekeeper, then go and do that. You know, like, yeah.
Great. That's really good. And I do have now a question that's going to be a little bit more complex, probably for the listeners. It's about something that I've seen on your website, which is called the quantum collapse. And I'm sure if somebody comes across your website and sees that, they're going to think, okay, it sounds nice, but I do not know what that is. Could you explain to us what that means?
Super simple. It's a series of questions to help you to understand your triggers and to take back your disowned parts. It's a phenomenal tool to help you to heal from past traumas, help you to really release that stuck energy in your body. It really uncovers the divinity around us. It really uncovers how perfectly orchestrated life is. So it's a series of questions to help you to understand. You know, I can sit here and say everything happens for a reason, but it's a throwaway comment. You know, it doesn't do anything for you. The series of questions that we take you through is to truly understand why that thing happened, to truly understand how that served you, to truly understand, oh gosh, yeah, it did actually happen for a reason. Like, I can see that now. And oh my God, I'm so grateful. Like, there's nothing in my life I want to change. So it collapses the triggers, it collapses the traumas, it collapses the emotional stuckness, and it really gets you to see, you know, if you're triggered by someone, it really gets you to see them in a different light. It really gets you to see, gosh, I am them and they are me, actually. Like, and vice versa, right? We do the things that we like about people as well. And so, you know, if there's people out there that you admire in the world, and I mean, it's not modeling, which we do in NLP. It's not the same process as that. But the idea is to own what you see in others and to own the greatness. So if you want to become a public speaker and you feel like you're not as good as, say, a Tony Robbins or Brian Tracy or someone who's been doing it for a while, you can actually start to own specifically what you see in them and take that on, right? All of a sudden you are that speaker, you are that person. It's all there, it's always there. It's just a case of making the subconscious conscious, really. And so it's just a beautiful series of questions that allow us to kind of dig into that area and bring it all to the surface. Yeah.
Great. Wow, that's so lovely. Thanks for explaining that. And I do have two final questions for today. And this question is about the quantum body blueprint. I've seen that also somewhere that you spoke about this. Could you explain us about this topic?
Yeah, it's a little involved, but just to kind of give you a quick summary, we have a blueprint before we incarnate into this life and it's our emotional content that actually lives in our aura, and our physical body is a projection of that. So we often say that the subconscious mind is the body, and that's a simple way of saying it. So the quantum body blueprint is your perfectly perfect blueprint for your body. And then we have all this programming on top of it. You know, we know through epigenetics now that programming can go back 13 generations. We know that what happens when you're in the womb can imprint. We know that in the first sort of 7 to 10 years of life, we're highly programmable still. And so any of this sort of trauma, emotional stuckness, imbalanced perceptions, stuff that we ruminate on, it all lives in that subconscious mind. And it's kind of like if you were watching a movie or if you were watching a slide on a projector. I don't know the age of your audience. So it's like, you know, we're going back to film, people. So I'm not talking digital, I'm talking going back to film, right? And you have this quantum body blueprint, which is the perfect film. And then in front of that, you put a dirty piece of glass. The screen is your body. And so there is this quantum body blueprint, which is this divine perfection. But then there's all this dust and scratches on this glass. And that's being projected into your body. That is how your physical body is showing up. So with the quantum body blueprint, we understand what's going on in your physical body so that we can clean the areas of the glass to give you a perfect projection, if that makes sense. So, you know, anything can be healed instantly because it really is just a speck of dirt on that glass. And similar to the lady with the breast cancer before, all she did was clean that glass. All she did was clean that little part of that glass that was interfering between her perfect body, her quantum body blueprint, and the screen of her physical body.
Wow, amazing. I think this is an episode that some of my listeners would have to listen twice in order to catch, because we spoke about so many different things. Yeah. And a lot of these things are probably topics that I've heard the first time. So that's why I think it's very powerful that they do hear this the second time, and also just take a visit to your website and study a little bit more of what you do, and perhaps even to investigate a little bit more about the topics that you are covering.
Yeah. And look, you know, you don't need to fully understand the concepts to do this work. You know, we teach and we process as we go along. So it really is probably for people that have been on the path for a little while. However, you know, I take people that have no idea of this work through these processes in one-on-one coaching all the time. So I get it that they are sort of, you know, the next sort of step beyond just sort of saying affirmations.
Yeah.
However, it is the work that works. And I mean, on that note, I'm not a huge believer in affirmations. I think that, you know, the stuff that we try and affirm is the stuff that we really know that we're not. And so all you're doing is resisting experiencing that and healing that part of you. But I digress.
Yeah. Great. Well, then whoever is now interested and there is this curiosity that just got triggered, where can they find your work, where they can find more information about what you do?
My website is jillogle.com. If you just Google me, Jill Ogle, see a whole list of things pop up. I'm on Instagram, JillOgle_ at the moment, YouTube. I have a Facebook group called Awakened Conscious Creators where I talk about this information. Yeah, you'll find everything you need on my website.
Perfect. I'll be putting that into our show notes. I will also put then a link to your book, Beyond the Light. So that brand new book. So congratulations on that one. Where can we find your book in case we do want to purchase it?
It's on my website
Yeah,
as well.
it's also there.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
And the final question, which is always the last question I ask all of my guests, what is your definition of happiness? Because I have heard so many different styles of what is happiness for one person, what is happiness for another one. How would you define happiness?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, happy and sad are best friends. And so I tend not to lead people towards happiness. And that's going to sound weird to a lot of people, I know. I lead people to what you would call happy, which is a meaningful, inspired life filled with gratitude and love. And that to me truly is what we would call happiness. It's not about being elated or giggly or any of those things. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love comedy and humor. However, it's more about the meaning of life and the fulfillment. If you're fulfilled, you will feel happy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for putting that definition of happiness, which summarizes it pretty well. Yeah, the definition of happiness, the way how I also think about it. Well, thank you so much, Jill, for all of that great insight that you've given to us today. I'm sure that there are a lot of things that my listeners will probably look up on your website, and I also encourage them to do that. And I'm also definitely going to look into some of that work that you're doing, especially your new book that's going to come out. I always love reading all these kind of things that we spoke about today, and especially the topics that you spoke about today is something that you don't hear very often, yeah, because you always hear the side of, yeah, just be happy or just be positive, yeah, and then people think like, how come it's not working, yeah, and that's why one really has to take in consideration the things that we covered in this podcast today. So thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you here, and hope to have you perhaps soon again in another episode.
Yeah, I'd love to, Juan. It was a long time in the making. It's been a couple of years since we first connected, but
Yeah.
so great to be here. And very, very grateful to anyone who listens. Just know that, there's more available to you no matter where you're listening from. And
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care, Jill. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a transformative conversation with Jill. Her insights into shadow work, emotional mastery, and the process of embracing all parts of ourselves, both light and shadow, have been inspiring. Jill reminds us that true growth often comes from the places we are most hesitant to explore. By facing our emotions, honoring our challenges, and aligning with our inner truth, we can find the life of purpose and fulfillment we have always dreamed of. If you are moved by Jill's journey and teachings, be sure to check out her book, Beyond the Light, Meeting the Shadow Within, and explore her programs through Transcend Your Reality. The links to her resources and ways to connect with her are in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from Jill's message. Big hugs, everyone, and see you next time at Health, Happiness, and Planet Podcast.